Hello team, in this video I'm going to divide it into two parts. The first part, I'm gonna go over the container component in MUI and in Figma. For part 2, I'm going to explain how we use the container component to create the shell template. The shell template is just a frame that includes the header, the nav, the body, and the footer. We are making an important update to the shell template that now includes the container component. Okay, let's talk about the first part. Here are a few things to know about the container component. When you go to the MUI website, you will see that it tells you that it's the most basic layout element. So in Figma, the container is just a frame, but the containers are based on the MUI breakpoints, going from extra small all the way to extra large. Now in Figma, we cannot model the browser behavior or the CSS breakpoint. So the frame and the prototyping tools in Figma allows you to design or plan and preview responsive design across any screen size. Now, the other part is that containers, they have a minimum and a max width. For example, let's take a look at this extra small container. The extra small container starts at 600 pixels, and if you stretch this frame, it will go all the way to 899. So all the containers, they have a minimum and a maximum width. So when you're designing, let's say for extra small or medium, you have to know that there is a minimum and a maximum width. And last, containers can be fluid or can be fixed. Let me show you an example. I have a fluid container, and inside of this container, I have a car component. Any element or component inside of a fluid container will grow as the container grows, as you can see in the example in the screen. And on a fixed container, the minimum width and the max width will be the same. So I have a fixed container and I have a car component inside of it. When I stretch this frame, you can see that the container remains fixed. So then again, the minimum width will be the same as the maximum width. And once again, on a fluid container, any component or any element inside of that container will grow as the container grows. On a fixed container, it doesn't grow. Basically, the minimum and the maximum width is the same, and any component that is inside of that container. Now let's talk about the second part of this video. Now that you know more about the container component, the Eve team has updated the template shell using the container component. We have also used the variables feature to include and accommodate other values like margins and gutters when using the grid styles. This template is what you need to start designing a new page, and the new shell will be available in our next Figma library update. Let's take a closer look at the shell template. As you can see, every shell template has a container going from extra small all the way to extra large. If you look at the layers panel, you can see that each container has been assigned with a breakpoint that has a max and a min width and other values, for example, the margins, the paddings, and the gutters when using the grid styles. We have leveraged the Figma variable to put it all together. And just to give you a quick example, you can see that each breakpoint has the right values based on the MUI standards. For example, the extra small container, which is this one, has a minimum width of 375, maximum width of 599, and 16 pixels margins, 16 pixels gutters, and anything that goes inside of that container can have a padding of 16 pixels. So all of these values are included in this container. In other words, each of these containers have been assigned one of these breakpoints. So for example, the container extra small has been assigned with the extra small breakpoint, or the medium container has been assigned with the medium breakpoint. Another important update that we have done to the shell component is to add another frame where you can add your design. This is where you can add any MUI component or any design element, and it inherits the values from the container where we have assigned a breakpoint mode. Let's take a look at one more example. Okay, so let's take a look at this example and show you how to use the template shell properly. And for that, I have this example with the car component. So as you can see, I have 4 containers going from extra small all the way to extra large. I have also used a card component to visualize how the card component responds from extra small to extra large. Now, what is the goal of this example? The goal is for you to see how to design better for responsive screens using the container, the grid, and the spacing tokens. Okay, so let's start with the extra small container. And as I mentioned before, we always recommend to start with the smallest container. Now within this container, you will remember that I mentioned that we have added a new frame called body. This is where you can drop any components and any other design elements you have. Within the body, of course, I have my heading 1. And below that, I have another frame called grid. One of the best practices you could do is to name your layers where you want the grid to activate. I recommend to adopt this method for a few reasons. Number 1, it's going to help you maintain alignment and consistency throughout the design. It also serves as a guide for placing elements in a better structured way. Number 2, it indicates that the layer contains the grid system. You can see the scaling and resizing of any design element for various screens. In this case, I'm going to use the example of a card component and how it responds to various screen sizes. And the third is to communicate the purpose of the layer to other team members, for example, your developer, so they can understand the role in your layers for guidance within your mockup. Okay, so under the grid, I have a card set, and within that I have 4 card components. And if you can see how I named the layer is card set XS equals 12, and you might be wondering what is that? Well, it's basically what you're saying is that on the extra small container you want the cards to hold 12 columns, and that is what is showing in this example. So I have a card set and each card component holds the 12 columns. So when you stretch these, you will see the behavior of a card. Even at this screen size 599, that card will hold 12 columns. And now you want to see how this card component looks on a small container, which is the next one. So all you have to do is copy this grid and paste it on the body. And as you can see, the card components are still holding the 12 columns. And it might look okay to you, but as soon as it reaches this screen size on this breakpoint, you will see that the card starts not to look so great. And instead, you want maybe 2 rows of 2 card components holding 6 columns. So it's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is duplicate these card set and just have 2 card components inside of that. And all you need to do is on the auto layout, set this to horizontal layout for each of the rows. It might be a good idea if you can name this card set row, and same thing here. And also you want to tell, in this case, your developer that you want the card component to hold 6 columns instead. So let's just copy these. So S is for small and the 6 is the 6 columns. And now you can see that each card component holds 6 columns and you have 2 rows. When you stretch these, you can see how it looks at this screen size all the way to the max width of this screen size. Okay, now let's move to the medium container. And what you can do is the same thing as I did from the extra small to this small, just copy the grid and paste it on the body where you can add all of your components. Now on this medium screen, as you can see, it starts at 900 and each card component looks okay, but when it reaches a maximum width, it might not look that great. Maybe you want 3 cards in a row, and so that's easy to do. So if you go to the card set row, just add another card component, just duplicate one like I'm doing on the left panel in the layers. And now you can see this medium screen having a grid that has 2 rows and each card component holds 4 columns. So now you will type M for medium and 4, which means 4 columns. And let's copy these and put it on this other one. So now your developer can see that you are wanting on the medium container 2 rows of 4 columns each card, and it has 3 cards in each row. Now something that you might notice is that the cards are not aligning properly to the grid, and that's because you have to set the gutter for these card set rows, and this is where you can use the variables to adjust it. So if you click on the card set row and you go to the horizontal gap between items, you can go to the variables and apply the gutter. So the gutter for the medium screen is 24. When you apply the variable, it's going to detect that you are on a medium screen, and so it's going to give you the right value. Do the same thing for the card set row 2 and apply the variable. When you apply the gutter, you will see how it aligns nicely. And here is the example, and as you resize back to the minimum width, you can see all the cards are aligning really nice. And last, let's look at the extra large breakpoint or container, and I'm gonna do the same thing as I did for the other containers, and I'm just gonna copy this grid and paste it on the body. As you can see now, it's aligning really good. I don't have to do really anything. I think everything looks great. Now you might be thinking maybe you want 4 card components in a row, and you can easily do that just by adding another one on each of these card set rows, and you can see how it's aligning really nice. And now you can see how your card component looks from the extra small all the way to the extra large, and you can see how it responds on every container. And now you have decided how you want your design to look on each breakpoint using the method that I was talking earlier, where you are telling your developer how many columns you want to use per card component or any other component that you have in your design. And so this is the way to utilize the shell template and the containers, as well as using the grid and the spacing tokens. We're gonna have more examples using the shell with other complex designs, but this is just to give you an idea of how you can improve your designs going from extra small breakpoint to extra large breakpoint. Thank you for watching this video, and let us know if you have any questions.